Hey guys, we're live. How you doing? Day 32. But also I want to teach you the 3 skills that you need to have to achieve financial independence. And we will look at some of those skills in this book here. So this is an Up.School webinar. It's a bit less formal than your average webinar. It's just me here and I'm presenting and sharing with you. And you can ask me questions if you want. It's completely up to you. I'm going to go in and share the key messages from I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. So you don't have to read this book. It's, leave it up to me to deliver the key messages and share them with you. And we'll also talk about financial freedom, financial independence, and wealth generation as well. For us lifestyle entrepreneurs, this is an absolutely important skill. This is the basis of everything that we do. I think it's probably more important for us as lifestyle entrepreneurs than anybody else because, our income can vary. We don't necessarily have a set strategy for us in terms of our business development. We're not growing a business to sell a business. We're not getting paid a salary. So for us, having options is what it's all about. And building a system that enables us to achieve financial independence is really what I want to share with you today. And the basis of that I will teach from the financial discipline aspect from this book here. So, should we get started? Let's just jump straight in. What I'm going to do is share a presentation with you, very short presentation, key messages from this book. Not going to go too deep, not going to get too technical, but hopefully there's some messages in there that are going to really make you think about financial independence, financial freedom, and so on. And if you like this webinar, then please hit the like button, because that will help other people share it. If you're a lifestyle entrepreneur, you need to help other lifestyle entrepreneurs out there get access to this information. So hitting like will help them discover it as well. So let's jump straight in. Here we are. So what I'm going to do now is just clean up the screen and then we are ready to go. So key messages from this book here. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Here are the key messages. I want to start off by talking a little bit about, let's jump straight in, financial intelligence. This is the message that I want to share with you first. Because making money, making wealth, generating wealth for yourself is ultimately about financial intelligence. And they don't teach this at school. So where does financial intelligence come from? Well, we know that the whole system preys on a lack of financial intelligence. For example, let me just share with you this example to make you think about how intelligent we really are as consumers. Let's say you had a $2,000 balance on your credit card, paying an average of 18% interest, which is quite low for a credit card, right? You probably agree. Yours is probably a lot higher than that. So you've got a $2,000 balance on a credit card and you're paying off the minimum, which is 2% or $10 a month, whichever is bigger. So 2% or $10 a month, right? So at the beginning, you're paying 2% of 2,000. That's $40 a month. You're paying off that, right? Question is to you, how long do you think it will take to pay off that balance at that rate? Starting off 2% at 2,000, which will be $40, right? How long would it take you to pay off your credit card if you simply pay off the minimum balance every month, the minimum payment every month? What do you think? How many months? I'm going to tell you the answer. 30 years. It takes you 30 years to pay that much off because banks, credit cards profit on the fact that most consumers aren't financially intelligent because they think paying off the minimum amount doesn't really affect their cash flow, right? But it takes 30 years to pay that off. That's why credit card companies can generate so much profit, because the vast majority of consumers have no financial intelligence whatsoever. And that's how the whole system works. And I want to teach you a little bit today about financial intelligence, some from this book, some from my own personal experience as well, and some from other sources, some experts out there that help us as lifestyle entrepreneurs become financially intelligent. So this is all about financial discipline, and it really is a discipline. So what do I mean by that? You can compare financial discipline to exercise. You think of all the things we say about exercise and how they apply to finance and our personal finances as well. For example, I'm too busy to exercise. Well, it's the same that people say about their finances as well. I'm too busy, or I'm too strapped, or I don't have enough money this month to save or invest. It's the same thing. Always too much going on right here, right now to put a little bit aside and create some wealth for you long term, right? Or you think maybe I'll do all my exercise in one big chunk and that will help me out. I'll do one day where I just go and smash it in the gym and then I'll take 10 days off. That doesn't work either. See, financial discipline, like exercise, is something that we have to do little by little every day. So I want to teach a little bit about what it says in this book about financial discipline, because that's the key message that I want to share with you today. Sorry, just flipping around here. And on top of that, what I want to share with you is the 3 key skills, what I call the 3 cornerstones of financial freedom. So this book here, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, teaches skill number 2, which is financial discipline. So that's really about making the money that you get stick around for longer. Okay. So what I want to do is, towards the end of this webinar, is teach you skill 1 and skill 3, which are the other 2 skills that you need to become financially free. Financial discipline is the core skill, the middle skill, which is how to save money when you get it, right? But there's so much more to finance than just financial discipline that you need to master to become financially free. And I want to share a little bit of that today. So here's an example that Ramit Sethi talks about. And he compares Smart Sally here and Dumb Dan. Now, Dumb Dan is a typical consumer in the context of what I've just shared with you with the credit card. Somebody who lacks financial intelligence, your average consumer, somebody who doesn't understand that paying the minimum balance off the credit card will take 30 years. Smart Sally is different, however. She understands the game, the laws, the rules of the game, and she can play that game. And that's what I teach you a little bit today, the laws and the rules of the game, so you can play it, understand, be at the right end of that game, so you're not at the receiving end of that 30-year payoff with the credit cards. So let's dive in. Let's talk about saving first. So this is the core of financial discipline. And here's a really interesting example that will make you think about saving, because it goes back. Remember I talked about financial discipline and said, I'm too busy to exercise this month, right? It's like exercise. And one of the things that we kind of teach ourselves, our self-talk, is this idea that, I'll start saving maybe in 5 or 10 years from now. I don't have enough money right now. And that's fine. But you have to understand the implications of that strategy. Is if you wait and start saving in the future, what that will cost you in the long term. And it goes back to financial discipline. Again, it's like paying off that credit card. It takes 30 years to pay off a credit card if you pay off only the minimum balance, because it's a lack of financial discipline, because you can't be bothered to pay off that credit card in one foul swoop. You'd rather just pay off the minimum. But that's how credit card companies make money. And look at how it affects investing and saving. So compare those 2 examples. I'm going to compare Smart Sally and Dumb Dan here. So Smart Sally starts saving when she's 25. And Dumb Dan starts saving when he's 35, 10 years later, right? And they're going to save and invest all the way until retirement at 65. And we're going to compare how much that they have at the end of that term. So it makes you think about what will happen if I delay starting my savings or investing now because I think, oh yeah, I'm too busy or I don't have enough money right now. Both of these people invest $100 a month. So they invest $100 a month. There's no difference. The only difference here is Smart Sally starts earlier, but here's the really interesting thing. Smart Sally invests for only 10 years. putting $100 in every month. Dumb Dan, however, starts 10 years later, but he invests for 3 times as long, for 30 years. So he's put in, effectively, 3 times as much as Smart Sally has put into that investment. The only difference being Smart Sally started 10 years earlier. They allow that investment to grow at 8% a year until they are both 65. Who has the most money at the end of this game? Who do you think? Given that Dumb Dan, I guess the names are kind of giving it away a little bit. I'm making it easier for you. Dumb Dan is invested 3 times as much. So he should have 3 times as much in the pot at the end, right? Wrong. The difference is this. At age 65, Smart Sally has $200,000 in her investment. Dumb Dan, who invested 3 times as much, has $50,000 less. That's crazy. How did that work out? Smart Sally invested 3 times less, but ended up with 1/3 more than Dumb Dan. The fact is, she simply started earlier. So I guess one takeaway that I want to share with you today, if the internet cuts off now, or this webinar fails for whatever reason, and it has done in the past, I want you to take on board just this one lesson. Just take one thing away from today, and that is start now. Because you may think that you don't have enough money to start now. You may think, I'm going to wait until I've got a bit more money, I start to generate a bit more money with my business, or I'm a bit older, that kind of thing, before you start saving and investing. However, realize that when you start later, you've got to put in a heck of a lot more to get less. Significantly. Because of the law of compound interest. Because Smart Sally has already got a huge advantage by starting earlier. It doesn't matter. You could be 45 right now. But the point is, start today. Even if it's simply putting $10 a month into a savings account, or $10 a month into an investment. And there are investments that you can make for $10 a month. Believe me, they're out there. Put it away. Just get into the discipline of doing it. It goes back to like financial discipline is like exercise. If you can't exercise for an hour, exercise for 5 minutes. Go for a walk. That whole process of getting started and that momentum will build, and you'll become like Smart Sally rather than Dumb Dan. The problem is with Dumb Dan, we leave it too late. We leave it far too late. We have to do so much more to catch up to get less. That seems unfair. But that's the punishment for being dumb, for not having financial discipline. So let's talk about wealth. Let's talk about real money. And then there's a lot of descriptions that you hear being thrown around. Wealthy, rich, financial freedom, financial independence, being loaded, all these kind of things, right? What exactly is it? Let's talk about that, because if we can define it, we can work towards it. So wealth may be, in your terms, or some people's terms, having power, having influence, owning an airline, being the man of influence, the man of the year, or the woman of the year, whatever it is. That is wealth for some people. Being a role model that all business people look up to, such as Richard Branson. That, for some people, is real wealth. For other people, wealth is the physical things, the material goods, the trophies of their success, the stuff they can see and hold and show off. For that is the sort of the materialistic version of wealth. A lot of people strive for that. Money, cars, houses, those kind of things. That, for a lot of people, is wealth. Fair enough. But for me, it's different. For me, I define wealth as freedom. I define wealth as choice. That you have enough money that you can do what you want to do. There's a great Bob Dylan quote. He says, a man is free when he wakes up in the morning and he goes to bed at night, and in between the two, he does what the hell he likes. That, for me, is freedom. And to achieve that freedom, you have to have a certain amount of money, and you have to have a certain system that allows you to generate that kind of money. And I want to share with you how that's possible. You're not going to be able to achieve that today, But what I want to do is just share with you how it's possible, because it's not a secret. You know, you don't have to become a Richard Branson. You don't have to become a multi-millionaire to be wealthy. You just have to have the right system. And it's far more achievable. It's far more in your reach if you just have the basics. So let's talk about what those basics are. We've talked about financial discipline already, right? That's one of the skills. That's one of the basics. So when you get the money, you hold on to the money, you know, and you save the money. You don't go and blow the money on expensive cars, expensive wines, or racehorses. That's poor financial discipline. That's like the person who doesn't exercise. So the way I see it is like the lack of financial discipline is like having a leaky bucket. You know, imagine the bucket is your wealth and the fire hose or the tap that fills the bucket is the income that goes into that bucket. The problem is that most people have a leaky bucket. So they got holes in their bucket, and those holes could be, for example, credit card debt, like I just talked about, or, you know, car loans, or living beyond their means, or not saving. So no matter what you put in the bucket, it goes out the other end. The holes in the bucket leak, right? So that means you have to have a fire hose to fill the bucket. You have to earn more money. And that's why the whole system is built on this idea that the only way to achieve wealth is to earn more and more money. And you do that by getting promoted, getting a better job, you know, getting more privilege, getting more responsibilities, bigger salary. That's how the system teaches you that you will become financially independent. But the reality is this. You get a better job, you get a better income, you buy a bigger house, you buy a bigger car because everybody around you's got a bigger car. You know, your bucket just simply gets leakier. So there's no net gain in the whole system. You have a bigger credit card debt and so on. And I've seen this. Back in the 1990s, I was a qualified financial advisor, which basically meant I was allowed to sell financial products to people. So what that meant was I was able to sit in front of people. And at the time I was in my 20s, right? And I was sitting in front of people who were older than me, who were smarter than me, who earned a lot more money than me, but were poorer than me. How is that possible? Let me show you an example. I remember, and this was a real turning point for me, and I want to share this with you now. I was in my 20s and I was a financial advisor working in the City of London, selling financial products to wealthy people. Wealthy. And I thought they were wealthy. So I was selling them to doctors. So doctors were earning, the average doctor that I was seeing was earning easily in excess of six figures. So maybe £150,000, so about $200,000 a year. Those kind of doctors. So somebody earning $200,000 a year should be rich. They should be wealthy. However, it's like the fire hose into the bucket. I remember sitting in front of a doctor who was 10 years older than me. And doctors are intelligent. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Doctors are intelligent. They study very hard. They work very hard. They have very good academic background. And they are some of the brightest people in their generation. Yeah, and a lot of people want to become a doctor because once you become a doctor, it's one of the best jobs in the world for financial security. Security. I only say security, not independence, right? So I sat in front of this doctor who was 10 years older than me, $200,000 a year in income. And as a part of being a financial advisor, I'd go through what was called a life plan. So I had to ask him everything about his savings, his investments, his income. And on the basis of that, I could advise about the products which would be best for him to grow his financial status. Now, he had $200,000 in income. He had, how much debt do you think this guy was in? Because you would have thought he would have been wealthy. This guy had $250,000 of unsecured debt. Unsecured basically means debt which is on credit cards, loans, and so on. And I couldn't believe it. He was a guy who had one of the best paying jobs in the world, who was one of the smartest guys in the world, who had 10 years more in his career than me to accumulate wealth, who was massively in debt. And there was no way that earning more money for him would generate more wealth, because he just had a hole in the bottom of his bucket. Everything he put in just went out the bottom. I couldn't understand it. But then I understood what the problem was. Financial discipline, financial intelligence. That earning more money was not related to building wealth. There was something missing. And this is what encouraged me to start my own business, because I realized a good paid job was not the route to financial independence and financial freedom. And it wasn't long after that meeting with the doctor, a couple of weeks, that I decided to quit that job and go and start my own business. So it's a common theme. If you've read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about two people that influenced his life, his rich dad and his poor dad. Now, let me tell you what those were, because it's an interesting analogy from what I've just said, is that his rich dad was a guy who quit college in 8th grade and invested his money in assets. He didn't have much in the way of education. So he was kind of the opposite of the doctor, where the doctor chose something safe, something secure, and a big salary and education and benefits and all that kind of stuff, security. He was the opposite of all of that. He chose no security, no benefits, zero salary, no education. But he went out and invested in assets, and he became rich as a result. And he invested in real estate in Hawaii, and he became one of the biggest real estate investors in Hawaii. His poor dad, which was his real dad, Robert Kiyosaki's real dad, was a university lecturer, which would have been the equivalent of a doctor, a medical doctor, very highly qualified, spend all their years studying, spend all their years building their academic status and their qualifications and increasing their salary. But he spent his whole life poor, like the doctor that I just told you about, because their only source of income was their salary. And that was the problem. They had no financial discipline to look after their salary, and they had no way of generating extra money. So it's like going back to, I'm too busy to exercise, right? We all have excuses why this can't happen to us. But what I want to do is share with you, I'm just finishing up today because this is a short webinar. If you want to ask any questions, feel free to ask questions in the chat box. I know I'm going through real quickly, and there's a lot of data here. What I would do is this will be available on archive for a little while on YouTube. I'll put the presentations on the Up.School website. If you are a member of the Entrepreneur Upgrade course, I'm going to put it on there so you can get access to it, as well as the video, as well as this PDF file, so you can download it, because there's a lot of data in there. But you might want to go back and review it, just review the notes and review the information as well. But finishing up today, I want to share with you my strategy. So my strategy is this. The 3 cornerstones of financial freedom. I want to come back to this because I want to teach you what skill 1 and skill 3 are missing from this financial freedom pyramid, right? Well, I look at these as cornerstones. These are the 3 corners, the 3 elements that you need to become financially free. Now, the problem is that most people focus only on one thing, which is, like this book, unfortunately, financial discipline, which is just saving. And the book talks a little bit about skill 3, which I'll talk a bit about in a minute, but not enough, and doesn't talk anything about skill 1. So I'll talk a little bit about those and what they are and why you need them. But the key here is that most people only know 1 or 2 of these skills, and they don't know the whole set. And that was my problem. When I started out in business, my goal was to become a millionaire. I wanted to become a millionaire by the time I was 30. And I started when I was about 26, 27. And starting in business that young, I thought I had enough time to become a millionaire. And I didn't do it. I didn't make it by 30 because I missed on one of these skills. I didn't understand that I needed one of these skills, which was missing from that 3 cornerstones of financial freedom. But when I discovered that skill and when I worked on it, that's how I achieved my financial freedom. And I want to talk about that a little bit now. So the first skill is income generation, which there's 2 paths to this. This first path is to have a job, and the second path is to have a business. It's very simple. Now, most people think, like poor dad, like my doctor friend, that the way to become financially free is to generate income, so to get a better job throughout your life and to pay off your mortgage. That is a clear lack of financial intelligence for two reasons. Firstly, paying off your mortgage does not equal financial freedom. Not at all. Financial freedom, in fact, if you look at the asset sheets, the balance sheets of most rich people, they have a lot of debt. And there's a big difference between good debt and bad debt. I won't go into it now because it's a very technical subject, but just understand that paying off the mortgage does not make you financially free. What makes you financially free is generating passive income, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. But this is the problem with the system. It teaches us income generation. That's the only strategy that we can have to get financial freedom. So we generate income, but we then lack in skill too, which is financial discipline. So we end up getting credit cards and credit card debt. And like my doctor friend, $250,000 of debt. It's crazy. I mean, nobody should have that kind of debt with that kind of education and that kind of income. And then there's the third skill, which is the vital skill, which is, let me just flick through the pages, asset investment. So one of the things I teach in the Entrepreneur Upgrade course is the importance of building two businesses, not one business. Because the problem with us entrepreneurs, and this is the mistake that I made when I was in my 20s, I made this mistake, which was I thought I was going to become rich by the time I was 30, and I was going to do it through income generation and financial discipline. I was going to create a business, earn some money, and save that money. And that's how most people think they're going to go with their lifestyle business. But you'll never become rich that way because you're missing out on skill number 3. But when I started looking at skill number 3 and building skill number 3, that's when I became financially free. And this is what I teach in my course, my Entrepreneur Upgrade course, is you need two businesses. One business is a lifestyle business, and the second business is an investment business. And what you need to do as a lifestyle entrepreneur is this. This is how you become financially free. You build a lifestyle business that creates cash flow. This is a business which you do because you love doing it. And the goal of that business is not to sell. The goal of that business is to keep playing the game and make enough money to enjoy playing that game. Invest the cash flow from that business, take it out of that business and put it into an investment business. An investment business is what asset investment is all about. Invest your cash flow into assets. And those assets will make you financially free. Far more chance of you becoming financially free by investing in assets than selling a business or having, for that matter, a better salary, which is almost impossible to become financially free that way. So this is all about making money while you sleep. Now, it sounds kind of corny, but for me, that is the route to financial freedom. Going back to that image I had earlier of, freedom. What is it about? Choice. The more you can make money while you sleep, the more you become financially free. So if you think about designing your business, think about it in two ways. The first way being, how can I design my business so that I can make money while I sleep? So that would mean a number of things. For example, I need some kind of revenue stream which keeps producing and selling while I'm sleeping, or I'm doing a webinar, or I'm watching a webinar, whatever it is. And the second thing is to create a business which is not completely reliant on you and the hours that you put in. So the fact that you can make money while you sleep is testament to the fact that A, you have some kind of autonomous pipeline in your business that can generate cash whilst you're not there. And secondly, the business isn't completely reliant on the number of hours that you put in. So you're not maxing out at the 16 hours a day or whatever it is that you work on your business. So that is how you become rich. That is the real answer to becoming rich. How you become financially free is making money while you sleep. And how do you do that? I want to give you an example. So you remember that $100 a month example that I shared with you earlier? I want to show you one of my case studies here to show you how this is actually real and possible. So if you were to invest if you were to save, so this is the financial discipline part of it. Let's go back now. Let's rewind this a little bit and talk about those three skills. Financial income generation. If you could generate $100 a month cash flow extra above your living expenses, take that $100 a month and exercise the financial discipline to save $100 a month, right? So you're not blowing it on gym memberships or Netflix or whatever it is. Save. So $100 a month in a year is $5,000, right? Okay, hopefully I'm not losing anybody here. This is basic math. So $5,000. Now, what if I told you that with $5,000, I was able to buy this house here, as you see right here in front of you? Actually, this house is a 6-bedroom house worth $500,000. I bought it for $5,000. How I bought it is a little bit technical, but let me just tell you, the more you study real estate, the more you realize it's not as expensive as you think it is. You think $500,000, how much does it normally cost somebody to buy a house of $500,000? Usually they have to put in a deposit of 10% plus 5% fees, maybe 20% in total. You know, they're spending something like $50,000 to $75,000 to buy this house, right? How was I able to buy it for $5,000? The reason I was able to buy it is I found somebody who wanted to sell and was really keen to get out of the house. So I was able to buy that house below what he wanted the price of this house for. I bought the house, and then as soon as I bought the house, I remortgaged it for the original value of the house. It's a little bit technical, but let me just tell you now that what I'm trying to explain to you is that you don't have to go into asset investment like an amateur investor. What I learned was a technique taught to me by professional property investors. And as a result of that technique, I bought a house for 10% of what a normal person would have bought it for, right? So that's education. That is the power of education. Get educated about how this works, and you can understand how you can get these kind of assets for very cheap indeed. And you know, you are then in the league of professional investors. That is how you create financial freedom, not because of the value of the asset itself. $500,000 is not a lot of money for a house in any stretch of imagination, right? The value is in the income it generates. And this is what I like to teach in my Entrepreneur Upgrade course. One of the big mistakes that investors make when they approach real estate is they look at value. They look at property values, property prices. So, you know, they go to these sort of marketing suites with these really cool houses, you know, where you have like these little models of the house, and then you have, you know, people, you know, the families with the dogs walking around, and it's all sort of very multicultural and so on. That is very amateur investor territory. That's aimed at amateur investors, right? Professional investors look for deals. They're not interested in that stuff. They look for deals. They can use these strategies to get assets really cheap, and they can use these strategies to get assets well below market value. So that's the kind of deals that you want. But I can't teach you these now. All I can tell you is they're out there. You have to first build these pillars of your cornerstones of your financial strategy. And the more you start saving to invest, the more you can start talking to investors and learn how it's done. But the key here is income, as I said, because this house produces $20,000 a year in income. And this house is 7,000 miles away from me, I think. I'm not sure the geography, but it's in another continent. And I have not just one house, I have a number of houses and apartments. And this is the point, is that I don't need to be there, and it still generates $20,000 of income a year. So the question to you is this, and this is where I guess entrepreneurs slip up and where they get it wrong. And the question to you is this, is if this asset can produce $20,000 a year and it's fully managed, and I'm living in a different continent where this asset is, how many of these can I have? Well, the question is as many as you want, as many as you can get, right? And you know, what's stopping me? Why stop at one? Why not get 5, 10, 20, 100? all generating this kind of income. And if it generates $20,000 a year, you can take some of that and reinvest and buy more of these assets. That is the key to financial freedom and, financial independence. That is real wealth. That is real how to be rich, as I see it, as I want to teach it from my experience. That is a guaranteed way to do it compared to building a business and selling it. Because, everybody needs houses. I can guarantee to you this, in 10, 50, 100, maybe even 1,000 years from now, I don't know if there'll be a Facebook, but I do know this for a fact. People will probably need places to live, and there will be more people than there are now. So there'll always be a demand for houses. Those are the kind of fundamentals I like as an entrepreneur and as an investor. And that's the kind of financial intelligence and education that I want to share with people, because people get really excited by, this latest sexy investment, and they start chasing it and think, oh, I'm going to make my money and it's going to give me 10, 20, 100 times my return on this company because they've discovered this thing. But at the end of the day, you've got to go back to the fundamentals. Real money is to be made in long-term assets. So that is what I think financial intelligence is, to have all these three corners covered: income generation, financial discipline, and asset investment. If you can achieve all of those, then you become financially free. That is financial intelligence. That is financial freedom. And that is what I wanted to share with you today. This book deals with the middle part: financial discipline, income generation, asset investment. This is what I teach at Up.School. Income generation, building a business, a cash flow business, a lifestyle business for lifestyle entrepreneurs, where the goal is not to sell the business, because who knows if somebody's going to buy your business. The goal is to keep playing the game, keep generating cash, take that cash and put it into an asset investment. That is what I wanted to share with you today. How about it? Did you enjoy that? That was the main message from today. Hopefully you got something out of today's webinar. If you did, then I really would appreciate a like. Give me a like, just so other people can discover it as well, because I'm really passionate about education. I'm passionate about financial education, especially for us entrepreneurs, because we don't get enough of it and we need it more than everybody else for the reasons that I've just shared with you. Plus we're in a good situation where we can take control of our finances more than anybody else. So you can build a business that suits, your financial situation more than somebody can. The only way that they can change their financial situation, if you're a salaried employee, is to go to your boss and ask for a raise or get another job, right? But your choices are pretty limited. But as an entrepreneur, you've got a lot more control. But the flip side of that as well is you've got a lot less security. So there's a lot more scope for it to go wrong. So there you go, guys. Short today. Hopefully that was useful. As I said, if it was useful, like, share this video. If you're not already a subscriber to my channel, then hit the subscribe button in the face, because that will then keep you updated on my regular live broadcast. What I'm going to do is I'll do one of these Wednesday webinars every week, and if it goes well, if you enjoy it, I'll keep doing it. And what I'll do is I'll archive all the webinars into my entrepreneur upgrade course with the PDF download, so you can get the review notes every week, so you can go back over and get the key points out of the lesson from today. All right, guys, thank you so much for your participation today. I enjoyed sharing this with you. Hopefully it was useful to you. Don't stop at financial discipline. Here's a starting point. It's a good book, but don't stop there. I recommend that you learn more. You learn more about income generation and asset investment. And don't ever say to yourself that, you don't have the time or the money to do this. Because as I've said to you earlier, don't be dumbed down. Because if you be dumbed down, you're going to start later, have to put in so much more money into your investment to get so much less out. And of course, credit cards. Don't pay off the minimum balance as well, but you know that one already. All right, guys, thank you so much for your participation today. I will see you next time, and make 2017 the best year yet.